Thanks, it's dark again. Guys, how are you? We'll wait just a minute, see if anyone else is coming. Hello. I feel like this has been a crazy week. Crazy. We'll talk in just a second. Hello. Okay, so I guess I'll go ahead and get started. So the recall Newsom, last I went live, we were holding a few people and I had a recall Gavin Newsom table in West Hollywood. And where we were, there were probably, it helped. You know what's crazy? Lance. So Lance just brought up a good point. I helped recall Gray Davis when I was stationed in California. I hope you all can make it happen again. Lance, I just learned that that's how Arnold Schwarzenegger got elected. So if you didn't know, Lance brought up a really good point. Yeah, I learned this back in the day. Arnold Schwarzenegger getting elected, that's how he got elected. It was a recall event. Gary Davis was a Democrat, and they held a recall, and Arnold Schwarzenegger won. So there is help. These things do work sometimes. And as far as I know right now, we needed 1.5 million valid signatures to go ahead and push the recall movement forward. We have over 1.8 right now, and there's a lot of events happening this weekend. I know there's one in Long Beach. I think there's one in Huntington Beach where people are setting up tables, having others come and sign the recall petition. So it's looking really good. Is it buffing right now? Recall the swamp. Hi, everyone. Hi, Steve. Yeah, I don't know. It's looking pretty good, and we have a lot of people running. We have Major Williams, who I'm a really big fan of. We have, hi, Marcia. We have Richard Grinnell just announced in CPAC that he was going to run. I don't know if he's going to do the recall, but he's, okay, thank you. No buffing now, thank you. I know Richard Grinnell just announced in CPAC that he was interested in running. I don't know if it's for the next election cycle or for the recall, but we have a lot of people who want to run in California, which is really good news. But so I had a few weeks ago, I had a recall table set up in West Hollywood with 2 people that I know. So there were 3 of us. Our city council was watching us, and they had the police come over and give us mask mandate tickets. So first of all, I had 2 masks on me. I was in a park. So we were in a park away from the sidewalk behind a table. And literally right across from us, there is a restaurant open where groups of 5 people are sitting next to each other without a mask on. And that's just fine. We were doing the same thing in the park away from people. You know, people would approach the table, but we're far back from the table. So we're not like close interacting with them. Anywho, they gave us a ticket for a mask mandate. It was a $300 citation. You guys helped me pay it. So what I had to do is I'm going to be appealing it, but I had to pay it online first. And then if I get it appealed in court, or if I get it dropped, they'll give the money back to me, which I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. If I do that, I'm going to maybe give it to a business that's struggling in my area. I'm trying to figure out a good thing to do with that money because it's not mine. You guys gave it to me. So it might be nice to maybe help out a business, or maybe get food from a business that's struggling, hand it out to homeless. I don't know. I know, Marcia, can the president be recalled? I asked the same exact thing. I don't know if it's the same rule, because we're trying to recall in Los Angeles. We're trying to recall 2 people right now. Gavin Newsom, and we have a new DA named George Gascon, who is just, we do not like him. He's letting dangerous people off really easily. He's not prosecuting crimes. He's not doing special enhancements. Special enhancements are like gang activity, hate crimes. If you do something with a gun or something like that. I'm going to try to read. I live in Phoenix. People from California keep moving here, overpaying to buy houses and making it hard for natives in Arizona to buy houses. Thanks, California. I'm sorry, James. I agree. That's why we're trying to help California so people will stop moving out. uh, can the president be recalled? You'll drive yourself nuts trying to make sense of pandemic double standards. Yeah, I understand, but I do. You're absolutely right. There's too many to even. But the good news is I have my day in court. So I went and paid everything online. I was talking to the clerk, so she's going to give me a court date pretty soon. I have video footage on my phone of all of the protests, all of people like walking around without masks on. No one was bothered. I have a feeling it might have been because we were there for the recall Gavin Newsom. We had a sign that said recall Gavin Newsom. So I have a feeling it might have had to do something with that. We have a very progressive city council and they really like Gavin Newsom. So it might have been targeted because of that. I'm not going to argue that in work because I have no evidence of that. But I am going to be arguing that it's unjust, unconstitutional, and selective enforcement. At what point? Okay, so Shannon is asking, at what point would it be that you are attracted to the idea of leaving California? It's always on my mind. I'm always attracted to it. I would really like to see what happens within the next year because a lot of people the thing about this recall Gavin Newsom and why everyone should be paying attention to this is we are a one-party state. We are one of the most liberal states. We're basically the future of liberal America. That's why this is so important. Everything that they're trying to do in Washington, they've already done in California, or a lot of it, obviously, not all of it. But yeah, all these crazy things that they're doing in Washington, they've already done that in California. And the beauty of what's happening with recall Gavin Newsom right now is it's Democrat, it's Republican. I just read, I'm going to read you something right now. This is off my my Twitter, and I found this really fascinating, and I've seen the same thing myself. Okay, so this person, Kevin Kiley, says, I've spoken with a number of people who signed the recall as their first act as a citizen, and a number of 18-year-olds who signed as their first act as voters. So you have people that are really inspired by this and aren't normally into politics that are coming out and signing, and they're proud of it. And you have Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, people that are just seeing what's happening in their state, and they're really tired of it. Next time, just wear a Biden shirt and they won't bother you. Thank you. That's probably a good idea. I have a shirt. It's a joke to me, but it's an Elizabeth Warren shirt, and it says Warren has a plan for that. And to me, it's a joke. But I forgot that I had that t-shirt on, and I was walking around my neighborhood, and I was approached by this girl. She was a really nice girl, but she came up to me, of course, not knowing what my ideas are. You guys know what my ideas are. But she approached me and she said, oh my gosh, I voted for Elizabeth Warren too. Or like, I love Elizabeth Warren. I wanted her to be the nominee. And she was just going on. And I was like, just smile and nod and then walk away. I was like, yeah, she's great. So I won't make that mistake again. Dominion 2024. Yep, I hear you. James Mitchell, Americans have the right to move around, but I don't like people from California selling their houses and then moving to another state and overpaying for houses and outbidding natives in that state. I completely understand. And James, I even have that frustration here. And what you see, a lot of people are waking up, and I have a lot of faith in that, but there's a lot of people also that are not making the connection that the policies they're voting in are what are destroying their state. And you're right, they come there and they overpay because they're used to overpaying. So that drives up costs. I was living in Denver, Colorado before I moved to California, and it was the same thing. We had a lot of people moving. It was more about money, but we had a lot of people moving from California because it was getting too expensive. But then that drove up our market because they were willing to pay more than anyone else who moves there from the East Coast or the natives that are from there. And you're right, it turns those states blue, and that's what's kind of scary because, again, they're not making that connection with the policies they're voting in and how terrible their living conditions are and why they are not happy in that state. And it all goes back to policy. Try to mention 2 people to watch CPAC tonight and tomorrow. President Trump will speak at 3:40 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday afternoon. Thank you, Jim. Okay, so President Trump is going to speak 3:40 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday afternoon. I'm actually really excited to see some of the events. I kind of wanted to go a little bit I'm going to go to Politicon. If you guys know what Politicon is, I went not last year, but the year before that. I was on a show for Blaze TV. It's no more because our contract ran out. But I was on a sketch comedy show for Blaze TV. We did a conservative political sketch comedy, and I got to go to Politicon. So I'm going to go to Politicon this year. I'm really excited. If they have it, I'm hoping they will because it's in October. Last year they had it in Nashville, so I'm hoping they have it this year and it's in person like CPAC. But yeah, some really interesting stuff is coming out of CPAC. California used to be a nice place to live, but the Dems made it worse. Sheet hole than even New York. Yeah, and it used to be so free. Are you guys fans of, some of you might be older than me, but I love older movies. Frankie and Annette Bonicelli. I used to watch a lot of their beach movies, but you look at those movies of California back in the day, and it's so cool. It's not like that anymore. They're just hanging out on the beach, having a good time. It's all laid back. There's so many regulations. Anytime you go on our beaches, there's just a laundry list of rules for the beaches now. It used to not be that way. Need to vote out authoritarianism. Yes, I agree. And you know what else? I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today about the recall Gavin Newsom and and I hate to be like this. I hate to be a little vindictive. It's not vindictive, but how funny would it be, first of all? Of course, I want Gavin Newsom gone because he has absolutely horrible, horrible policies and is destroying the state. That's not even, and you guys might not even know this, but during the summer, right in the middle of the pandemic, he snuck in extra gas taxes. So he started taxing our gas even more over the summer. So our gas prices went up right in the middle of the pandemic, and he probably had to because we have no money. What was I saying? I don't remember. What Exodus from California? Is it on YouTube? What's Exodus from California? Is it on YouTube? It is actually. If you search Exodus from California, a lot of videos will pop up, maybe even one of mine. It is on YouTube, so you can search it and get more information. It's just, and they're already talking about raising our taxes again. They're talking about raising taxes. They're talking about all these crazy rules. We have, Gavin Newsom is letting people out of prison because of COVID. So our streets are more dangerous. Our homeless is out of control. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. Because I'm going to talk about the Lady Gaga story, and it's not about her. It's about, there's something bigger going on underneath this, which I'm going to talk about because that happened in my neighborhood. And I interviewed some of the neighbors that actually witnessed and talked about everything. I have it on my phone, so I'll play you a little bit of it. But it's just the living conditions. And I recently read somewhere that in order to live just a decent, happy life in California, you have to make over $100,000 a year, which is kind of a lot. It's a lot for the rest of America. Of course, you make more money in California because our wages are higher, because our cost of living is higher, but that's still a lot. Just to live a comfortable, decent life, you have to make $100,000 a year. That's a lot. No jobs, no taxes. Yeah. How close is the petition getting to having enough signatures to recall Gavin Newsom? Okay, Glenn Allen just asked that question. Well, we already have, so you need valid signatures, right? So right now, what you needed in order to kick off the recall is 1.5 million signatures. Right now, we have over 1.8, not 1.9 quite yet, but we have over 1.8 million signatures. And as we're speaking right now, there's events going on all over California where people are coming out and signing. So I would imagine we have until March, I'm seeing different dates. There's March 10th, there's March 15th, and March 17th. So essentially, we have until the middle of March to get, however, and I have a feeling it's going to be well over 2 million. But what they wanted to get was about 2 million just to be safe, because again, they have to be valid. Your thoughts on Josh Hawley? I really like Josh Hawley, and it's sad that he gets. I just watched an interview with Geraldo Rivera, and he was calling out Ted Cruz. He was calling out Josh Hawley. He was calling out all of these people and said they were just a disgrace to the Republican Party, and what they did on January 6th was a disgrace. Well, that's coming from people that I would say don't understand every angle of what is going on, because there's no way you can say that about them. I really like Josh Hawley. Um, I'm not like as versed in Josh Hawley as other individuals in Congress. I like him. I like the fact that he stands up. And I don't know if it was him or if it was someone else, but someone introduced a bill that I thought I really, really liked. So we had this whole, and I think it might have been Josh. It could have been someone else. So the bill that he or someone else introduced, fact check me on that, was, so we had the talk about the $15 minimum wage, and that did not get put in the new COVID relief bill. I believe that got taken out. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it got taken out. And of course, we all know the argument on that. Yeah, big corporations can afford that. That's why they're all for it. But it's the small businesses that really suffer, because they're going to have to either lay off employees or raise their prices in order to accommodate a $15 minimum wage. And then, you know, living here in California, we basically have a $15 minimum wage, or we're very close to it. But the cost of living is a lot higher here. So it makes sense that our minimum wage would be higher than small town Virginia, or, you know, somewhere in the middle of Ohio. That would be crazy. We have different living expenses. That's not fair. How can a small business in the middle of Ohio afford to pay their employees $15 an hour? But this bill that was being proposed, again, I think it was by Josh, but not sure. But he was proposing that they should have a minimum wage on really big corporations, places like Amazon, Target, you know, Walmart, Walgreens, like CVS, all of those places should have maybe a $15 an hour minimum wage, and leave the small businesses alone. I thought that was pretty clever. And it's funny because right after he said this, I was on Twitter and I was just browsing through Twitter, and now Twitter has like little ads that will pop up. And one of the ads was by Amazon, and they were fully in support of the minimum wage. And I thought to myself, like, how funny is that? Pretty funny, because of course it benefits you. And then another way that it benefits these large corporations are, you know, the smaller businesses. In order to accommodate this, they have to raise their prices. So the people that are shopping there are now paying even more. So that's just going to drive people to go to these larger places like Amazon, you know, or Walmart or Target, where they can still get the same items for a lot cheaper. And it's not fair. I recently visited a friend in Montana because I'm going to move out of Virginia. I had to produce my concealed handgun permit in order to stop my interrogation at the hands of several locals who were concerned about the possibility of another dead moving to their state. I don't blame them. Honestly, like, if I lived in one of those states, I would be protecting it like crazy. And I just saw, I can't remember what state it is. I want to say Oklahoma, but I don't know, you guys. I can't remember what state it is, but one of these states was actually trying to pass something that blocked executive orders in their state, that blocked Biden's executive orders so they wouldn't happen in their state. Can't remember what state that is. If you know, let me know. Glenn Allen, Pelosi and House passed 15 minimum wage, even though it was not allowed in the Senate. She said to make a statement. Okay, I'll be interested to know about that. No, because taxes of no one working leaves the ultra-rich having anything but provided by and controlled totally by the government, CCP, anyone. Another thing that Gavin Newsom did, this didn't get a lot of attention, and it kind of went away. My boyfriend works at a big factory, a huge factory, where they make sports apparel, but during the pandemic, they actually shut the factory down and repurposed it to make PPE. So they were making masks and like hand sanitizer and all of this stuff. So they're doing this, and a lot of really big places did this in California because obviously they're not selling sports apparel. Sports are closed. They're busy now because they're getting open. Their sports are allowed to go on now, thankfully. But they were making all these masks. So while you have all these companies in California that are making masks, what does Gavin Newsom do at the beginning of the pandemic? He has a $1 billion deal with China to buy masks. He could have put that money back into California. He never shopped around for prices. He never shopped around for anyone. He never contacted, as far as I know, any of these factories in California that were making masks. Instead, he bought them from China. which you could argue, okay, maybe China can mass produce them as a higher rate than some of these corporations, but you could also get a few places to give you masks, and that money would have gone right back into California. He didn't do that. My boyfriend's company never even heard from them. So that's another thing that he did, and the contract was never made public. He would not allow that contract with China to be public, so we've never seen it. So that's just one more thing that Gavin Newsom has done. And think about this too. So Gavin Newsom here in California, he wants us to be, hold on, somebody asked me a question. Hi, would you want to do a Sunday special with Ben Shapiro? I think this would be an interest. I would love to. I think I'm too small to do one with Ben Shapiro. Maybe I can reach out to him. If you guys know him, reach out to him. I would love to sit down and talk with him. I would love it. And that would actually be really funny because him and I were similar, but we're very, very different in same ways. So, okay, here's another thing about Gavin Newsom. Okay, think about this. This is fun. This is just food for thought. This is very fun. So, Gavin Newsom, his whole thing is climate change, right? His whole thing is he doesn't want you to be able to purchase anything other than an electric car, okay, in California by 2035. So by 2035, he wants it to be so that if you live in California, you can only purchase an electric car, all right? So that's what he wants. And his whole thing, you guys have seen it, his whole thing is climate change, right? Who is the largest electric car manufacturer in the entire world? Who is that? Elon Musk, Tesla, the largest car manufacturer in the entire world. Who just had to flee California because the policies are so bad, he couldn't do business here? Elon Musk. He pulled Tesla, the last car manufacturer in California, by the way, he pulled Tesla out of California and went to Texas because the regulations and the policies were so bad, it made it impossible for him to do business here. And think about this. Think about what Gavin Newsom is all about. Why is Gavin Newsom not best friends with Elon Musk? Exactly, Tesla. Why is Gavin Newsom, like, they should be best friends. They should be holding hands and running through daisies and singing Kumbaya. They should be staying up too late building bunk beds. They should be the dynamic duo, but they're not. Why is that? Yes. Because obviously this has nothing to do. And imagine if Gavin Newsom and Elon Musk were like this and Elon Musk stayed in California. Imagine how great California could be. But no, it got so bad, and Elon tried to work with Newsom. He tried really hard to work with our elected officials. We even had one elected official. Her name is Lorena Gonzalez, who over Twitter told Elon Musk when he was saying, he wasn't being crappy, he was just saying, I might have to go to Texas because I was told I was going to be able to open my business and now you're not letting me. And this Lorena Gonzalez, exactly, he's more conservative. That's why, that's how you know this has nothing to do with the betterment of the state with Gavin Newsom. It has nothing to do with the betterment of the state. It has everything to do with their friends or their special interest or what they want or their bipartisan hackery or whatever it is you want to call it. It's like high school. It's like Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine, like all of these people, it's like high school. We're living in a giant high school. That's exactly how they run this country, and it's pathetic. I can't stand it. But yes, they should have been best friends, but that just goes to show you that the betterment of California is obviously not number one on Gavin Newsom's mind. And imagine how funny that would be if he got recalled, because you know he's everything he does. Like, he's trying to be the hero. He's trying to be a career politician. That's his path. If he gets recalled, it would be very funny. Newsom singing, he probably sounds like a sea lion gargling gravel. American Dad, masks are for suckers. Yeah, unfortunately, we have to wear them almost everywhere here. I make $14 an hour with benefits and overtime. Yeah, I actually, that's basically what it is here in California. I think it depends where you live. I know in Santa Monica, the minimum wage is $14 an hour. In a lot of places, it's like $13.25. But I was working when they raised our minimum wage here in California, and I was working at a restaurant when they did it. I was working part-time. I had my little part-time acting gig, and then I worked at a restaurant part-time as a server. And I remember, and they had to pay us minimum wage. A lot of places, servers make like $2 an hour, but they had to pay us minimum wage plus tips. So I was making like $13 an hour plus tips. But I remember they raised our minimum wage $1 an hour. And I remember the exact day that went into effect. And I can tell you exactly what happened. That same day, the minimum wage went into effect. We got a new menu. All the prices on our menu went up. So I'm making more per hour, I guess. But now I have to deal with all the customers because we had a lot of regulars. I had to deal with all of them complaining about the prices, and they wouldn't order as much or they wouldn't tip as much. And then I used to be able to pick up shifts whenever I wanted. I couldn't do that anymore. They had to cut our hours. They had more incentive to make sure we didn't go over a certain amount of hours, so they didn't have to pay us more. Fauci is in bed with the commie Chinese. They both profit from continuing the pandemic. Oh, okay, James, I'm a permanently disabled veteran. I'm never working again. I'm not paying income taxes to help fund this corrupt government. I think a lot of people feel like that, James, and also thank you for your service, and that's incredible. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. That's why a lot of these states are kind of like floating the idea of secession. That seems extreme. And that's why that one state, I want to say Oklahoma, but just check this. I can't remember what state it was, but they're actually trying to pass something that prevents them from having to follow Biden's executive orders. I think, what did he do? Like 50 executive orders in the first week? And people are like, whoa, I didn't vote for this. This is radical. And I'll be honest with you, I was like, okay, at least if Biden gets in office, you know, he's kind of a career Democrat. Usually it's not going to be too bad. Like, he's not radical or anything like that. But I quickly got a rude awakening, as I'm sure a lot of you are. I thought at least it would be 4 years of Obama, and yeah, some bad things would happen, but you know, it wouldn't be as bad as it is right now. I had no idea it would turn this radical. And I think a lot of people are really angry about this. A lot of people are very angry about it. Hi, Grayson. Hi, Grayson. Jared, speaking of Emmy, they need to recall Cuomo's Emmy. Yes. Oh. So right before I got on here, I saw that a second staffer of his has come forward with allegations. So now we have 2 staffers with pretty serious allegations. And I recently saw, and Bill de Blasio is calling him out. Bill de Blasio has been calling him out from the very beginning. A lot of people are calling him out. This is not a good day for Cuomo. And I recently just saw, I'll put it in another video later, there's a huge billboard in New York with his face on it, and it says recall. And I think what's even funnier, it's not none of it is funny, because I mean, people were hurt. I mean, you know, he has allegations against him. That's not funny at all. But he is such an arrogant. And then Hollywood, oh my gosh, gave him a freaking Emmy. They gave him an Emmy. Trump actually did press conferences every day too. I thought his were way better than Cuomo's, just saying. But he did an hour-long press conference every single day the first few months of the pandemic. And people were saying he wasn't transparent or any of that. Hi, Sebastian. Thank you very much. Stan says, I get Newsom and Trudeau pictures mixed up. I do too. I do too. Glenn Allen said, I was working when the minimum wage went up. They had to raise my salary and others to go above minimum to keep us around, and they hired less workers. Wow, that's an interesting perspective. So you were working above the minimum wage, and just to make it so you weren't making the same amount as the people. Wow, I didn't even think about that, but that makes a lot of sense. Cuomo, sorry. Climate change sounds whack. So I was just talking about this recently too. When I was little, I remember going to the grocery store with my mom and being in the checkout line, and seeing how the world was going to end because there was a hole in the ozone layer. Like that was all the talk when I was a little girl. It was, and I remember being so freaked out thinking the world was going to end because of the ozone layer. And I was like, I can't use hairspray. And literally that was what it was. It was the hole in the ozone layer. That was the big climate thing when I was little, and we all thought the world was going to end because of the hole in the ozone layer. And I haven't heard about that in a really long time. Have you guys? But we can talk about something else. So I'm drinking, what time is it? It's almost 5 here. I used to live in Colorado, and I really like craft beer. You wouldn't look old enough. I'm old enough to drink, but I really like craft beer. This is from Colorado. It's the Breckenridge Vanilla Porter. It's really, really, really good. And I used to ski at Breckenridge. Well, no, I snowboarded. I've never skied once in my life, but I used to snowboard at Breckenridge, and I really like, cheers, I really like their beer. Shakara says, I remember those days. I think I was a teenager then. Yeah, right? And it was always something. There was Y2K, and then when my mom was little, it was, we're going to get bombed. We're going to have a nuclear bomb. Everyone make a bomb shelter. I've never skied. The reason I've never skied is because I wiped out pretty bad on my snowboard a few times. I've never skied because I feel like there's too many different things that can go in too many different directions. And I'm like, I have a handle on snowboarding, so I'm just going to stick to that. That's what freaks me out about skiing. It's just, there's too much. Shannon, I live in Spokane, Washington. Don't drink, but I do partake in the devil's lettuce. It's legal here. And it's about time. Yes, we have the devil's lettuce here. Yeah, I don't drink too much anymore. I love craft beer. That's my thing. I really like craft beer. And unfortunately, here in LA, it's not a big beer scene. I think because it's too many calories, maybe. I don't know. But it's not a really big beer scene at all. The devil's lettuce. You know, another really funny term I heard, I'm going to say this to Shannon, just because you said devil's lettuce, so you'll appreciate this. Somebody was around me recently and referred to their pants, pants that you wear, regular pants, as leg prisons. So pants, leg prisons. I really liked that one. I've never heard that one before. James Mitchell, America is becoming a socialist postmodern society. The government controls everything. Our history is being destroyed. Every group except for straight white people is allowed to celebrate their identity. You know what's interesting? I don't know if you guys saw this, so I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. This I saw too. Boston public schools are thinking about, or they're doing it. Let me see if I can find this update. Boston public schools are thinking about getting rid of their AP program. So, here we go. Boston public schools suspend advanced program because officials were disturbed by the number of Asian and white students. Yeah. And by the way, you have to test, I believe, to get into these programs, right? So just because there's too many white and Asian kids, they're going to get rid of their advanced studies program. And so if we're going to use that same logic, are we going to have to look at the NBA or other places where there's mostly one race representative? Are we going to be using that same logic everywhere? This is insane. If I was a parent, I want to look more into this story. I just kind of saw the headline earlier today, but if I was a parent, I would be. So let's take away advanced studies of other people. Let's take away their opportunity at a challenging education just because something else is going on. And this is completely backwards to me. Completely backwards. Why aren't you looking at, okay, why isn't it more equal? Why aren't more people testing into these programs? Because that's all it is. It's a test, I believe, that you get, and it's contingent on how you do in school. Yeah, it's getting ridiculous. Okay, you want to talk about ridiculous? This story is going to be a little, but I think you'll find it interesting. So you all heard what happened with Lady Gaga and her dogs, right? Well, that happened very close to where I live. Not too close, but very, very close. And I actually used to live right in that neighborhood, maybe 2 blocks away from where this incident happened. If you don't know what happened with Lady Gaga's dogs, it was kind of weird. So I believe it was Wednesday night. I got, I don't know if you guys have the Citizen app. I have it. So I got an alert on my Citizen app that somebody was shot and dogs were stolen in Hollywood. And I remember looking at the area that happened, and I was like, oh my gosh. My first thought was, I used to live there. Like, holy cow, this is like such a dangerous area. I've seen a lot of stuff like that come out of this area, and I've been seeing it more and more recently. And even where I live, I will not walk anywhere at night anymore. I just won't. It's just because I see stuff like this happen all the time. So I see that. And then, of course, the next morning, it came out that it was Lady Gaga's dogs. And I'm like, okay. First, I was thinking, why does she live in that area? But so the dogs were staying with her dog walker. He lives in that area. She's in Rome shooting a movie. He lives in that area. He was walking them out, I think around 10 p.m. at night. And that's when all of that happened. So I didn't even intend to do this, but I ended up in that area because I had to go to a bank. And I don't know where you live, but I go to Bank of America. A lot of our branches since the pandemic have been temporarily closed. And I had to go into the bank. I couldn't just do the ATM. And the only Bank of America that was open was right by where all this happened. So I'm over there in the morning and I see all the news trucks and everything. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to walk through there. I ended up talking to the neighbors that witnessed everything, and we had a really, really interesting conversation. And there's something bigger that's going on behind the story. First of all, let me tell you how locals feel. Locals in the area, stuff like this has been happening all the time. I do not think it was targeted. I do not think they knew that it was Lady Gaga's dogs. She has French bulldogs, and a lot of people have been stealing those recently. They're like a hot ticket item. So this is something that's been happening in LA a little more and more, or it's something that's been happening. So I think they just saw this individual. They either followed this individual, her dog walker, I think his name is Ryan. They either saw him, they followed him, and then he got to an area where he was vulnerable to attack because it was actually a dark area. It was almost right in front of an abandoned house where it's really dark, it's not lit. So they took the dogs, shot him. He almost bled out on the street, but thankfully a neighbor came and put pressure on his wounds. The police were there within 2 minutes, the neighbors said. They were just really impressed how quickly the police were there. I saw that Masta said somehow her dogs were returned after the 500K reward. Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. I'm really, really not happy with that. I'm really not happy with that because I live in this area. I've seen the crime. And let me see if I can play this for you. I have, when I was talking to the couple, they're going to describe what happened. Where is it?
So he saved his life.
Can you hear this?
So living around here, we all hear screams and stuff like we were talking about before. At what point did you realize this isn't like a normal?
Let me know if you can hear.
This is something worse. It sounded like at first it was kind of like a laughter.
Where's my speaker?
I could just hear him freaking out and screaming. Yeah. Did you hear anything from the people that shot him? Did they shout anything? Did they say like, give me your dog or something?
But did you hear any shouting from the other guy?
No. But what I did hear was that man in such fear. That was what pulled us out of the house. Because like she said, we hear it all the time in this neighborhood.
Parties.
It's just a real thing.
Yeah.
And also look what we live next to.
Yeah.
Right? So again, it's like, oh gosh, I got to go outside because somebody's breaking into the house next door. It literally is that here. So, but when I looked over the fence and I saw the white car with the 2 doors open and I saw the 2 dudes standing there, the shot fired. Immediately, what do you do when the shot fires? You don't go out, you go in.
Wow.
So I was about to open the gate and go out, is what I do every night.
Yeah.
But instead I told Rachel, get in the house.
Right.
And I called 911 like 2 seconds, and then they were like, get on the floor, they told us.
Yeah.
Get on the floor,
Get
get back. And I heard a second shot, and they said, do not go outside. And the police were here in 2 minutes. They were fucking amazing. Yeah, they were amazing. They were here, the ambulance was here, and they said, we're getting a ton of 911 calls. And I have to tell you, that's our neighborhood. We have become that neighborhood where we care about each other.
Totally.
And we see, because we see what's happening with the homeless. We feel for it, believe
Yeah.
me, it's not, we're not angry
No,
about
in
it.
fact, he works with homeless
Yeah,
people. Like,
that's right.
So that's part of
Yeah.
why I don't know what it was that like we had the
She was
perfect.
targeted. That whole thing was a target. There's no way it was random. It was
Mhm.
completely
I don't
targeted.
think it was targeted.
So you heard one shot? We're hearing
I heard
different.
two.
You heard two.
I heard one when I looked out and it was about to literally come out of the house, and so that was the first shot. And then the second shot I heard is when the second shot and the car took off.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
would say that I was just reading today that French bulldogs are a very big source of current stuff. The thing that I really don't know about, like, maybe they had cased the neighborhood because they would have known that this is sort of a dark spot.
Yep.
Or if it
That's
was
right.
just a pure, like, they found bulldogs and it was like an opportunity. What is it? An act of opportunism, crime of opportunity. Because they saw these cute little bulldogs, and everyone knows those are expensive. So
Make it louder.
So the white car, what kind of car was it?
It was a white, like Nissan or something, something like that. Like a kind of slick car, a little bit lower, like a fancy, it looked a little fancy.
And
just what we see in the neighborhood.
Did you see? So how many people were there?
Only thing I saw was the 2 doors open and 2 dudes right there. That's all I saw. But it was so fast because the minute I looked is when the gunshot went.
Yeah.
And so if you think about, think about 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then bam. So your eyes only see what you can register. And then when the gunshot happened, my brain freaked. My brain freaked and went backwards, and all I could think of was her and safety. And that's when I said,
No, and thank God our kid wasn't here.
Yeah,
He's
our
at his
kid
other
wasn't
dad's
here.
house. So it was like,
I would be so mad
yeah,
right now.
he could have witnessed the whole thing.
So that's basically it. But you can hear they're talking about, we hear a lot of commotion all the time because we're so used to the homeless in this area. And I think what's happening, some people made it, someone just made a comment, why don't you move out if it's getting that bad? I know, right? That's what I first thought. And I watched the surveillance video and you can hear everything. Guys, it was scary. Like, it was traumatizing. I'm so glad their kid wasn't there too. It was really, really scary. And this guy, from what they described, and when I saw the footage, the guy that was shot, his name is Ryan. He was about to bleed out on the street. Like, their neighbor went out and applied pressure to his wounds, but they are convinced, that couple that I was talking to, they are convinced that if their neighbor didn't go out and apply pressure, that he would have passed away. So that, and the fact that the cops got there so fast, and he got help really quickly, it was a very scary, like, really, I was even kind of traumatized just watching it and just knowing that neighborhood and knowing this isn't very far away from me. But yeah, I'm glad that kid wasn't home. But I think what you're saying, why don't people move out? Because this just happened so fast. It's like all of a sudden, and you have to understand, like, these people live in a home that they bought. And when they bought this home, they built it up. They made it beautiful. You didn't see it, but they had to put this giant iron fence around their house and even around their driveway because of, like, the homeless crime in the area. And they live right next to a house that's been abandoned for I don't know how long. Let me see if I can show it to you. But it's just wild how this is happening. But I think it just creeped up on people. And the thing is, when you love an area so much, you don't just want to abandon it and leave. You want to stay and you want to fight and you want to help it. So I think that's where those people are at. That's where I'm at. So yes, moving out of California is always on my mind. I'm always looking at other states. I really like Nashville. I'm always looking at other places, but at the same time, you have this thing that keeps you here because you love it so much and you know how great it could be if you just had the right leadership, and it's really hard. Oh gosh, Masta, I'm sorry. Bleeding out sucks. It happened to me last year. A lot of recovery time. Yeah. Shouldn't the federal court and release this is ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, and that's another thing that people are really angry about. That's another angle of this story. So another angle of this story is Lady Gaga offering $500,000 for her dogs. She could have just, why not $50,000? Why not 10? Why not 20,000? $500,000. So now a lot of people are worried, and this has been all over, like, our neighborhood apps, our citizen apps, like, people in the area are now worried. They're like, so is this just incentivizing other people to go out and take these dogs because now they know. And that's what criminals do. I've had my house, not in Hollywood, but when I was living in Denver, Colorado, I woke up to an intruder in my house. And thankfully, he left. He didn't have a weapon. I think he was just some dumb kid who was looking to make a quick buck. And it looked like he was going after our electronics to try to sell them or something. But anyway, the police were really awesome. They worked with us. They ended up catching the guy. But the police even told us, like, people will go into neighborhoods that they feel are a little more affluent, even if not everyone lives. We were not affluent, but you know, there were a lot of affluent people around us. We lived there because it was safe. But people go into neighborhoods they know are affluent because they know they have nice things. Hence, this area, a lot of people have little designer dogs, and those dogs are worth a lot of money. And especially at night when there's no lights and things like that, it's a lot easier to commit these crimes. And if you're getting a $500,000 reward, doesn't that just incentivize more crime? And the reason I bring this up, I know it seems silly that we're talking about Lady Gaga, because this goes right back into all of these reasons you have higher crime. It's our homeless population that is out of control. And you heard them talk about this. And like everyone, we have compassion for our homeless population, but we get tons and tons of money every year to fight homelessness, and it keeps getting worse. And that's another reason people want Gascon out of here. 2 times last week, I was walking in my neighborhood, just 2 blocks from my house, right? Should be totally safe. Just going to my little corner store, that's 2 blocks from my house. 2 times last week, I had to change my route because the direction I was going in, I could see a homeless man that was very clearly mentally ill, that was very clearly drugged out, acting a fool, and I was scared. And they were yelling and they were being violent, and I was scared. And we're having situations where people are getting attacked just walking down the street from a homeless individual. So this is just one more thing, and talking to them. And these people, like, I didn't show them to you, but they are very, you can tell they're very liberal people. These are not conservative people, and they even recognize the issues that are going on in their neighborhood. But again, you have these people, you guys, that see this stuff and don't make the connection always to policy and why these things are happening. FBI is sleeping on the Hunter Biden case. Why? I know, and that's the thing. And this is another thing, too, about this story. I don't know if this is true or not. I've seen conflicting headlines. I saw a few headlines saying that the FBI was involved in this, and I saw a few headlines saying no. But it's just so crazy how the FBI will get involved in some of these cases. And this isn't silly, because, I mean, dogs are dogs. I have animals. I love them more than anything, but that is nothing compared to a human life. And this is a serious crime because someone almost died. But as far as the dogs and finding the dogs and getting the FBI involved, and it was the same thing with, you guys remember the Bubba Wallace, the NASCAR guy that thought the garage pulley was fashioned as a noose, but he came to find that's how they all are, and it was just a garage. The FBI was involved in that, and then you're right, they're not involved in the Hunter Biden or election or whatever. Bubba Smollett, yes, Lance, Bubba Smollett. Hammerstein, Aerosmith, dude looks like a lady, nothing to be Gaga about. And you're right about the money, though. Yeah, it's too much. Why not? I was talking to someone earlier today. Why not $50,000? That is such an exorbitant amount of money. And the dogs were turned in earlier today by a woman who, not a lot of information has come out about her, but I'm like, all you have to do is get someone that says they just found them and then get the money. And so we'll stay up to date about that. But it makes me mad because I'm like, this is where I live. Are you just incentivizing more behavior like this or crime like this? LA is crap with erupt. Yeah. So Sean, no, you're right. We actually had, I don't know if you guys know this, but our city council members in LA, the past few years, we've had, I think, up to like 5 city council members arrested for corruption in LA. So yeah, that exists. Why is Kamala handling the overseas talks? Syria. Yes. Let's talk about Syria. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this, because here's the thing that I just learned about energy. So energy, we need it. We need oil. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people want to be climate change, and that's great. But as far as right now, we still need oil. I am all for diversifying energy. I am a huge fan of diversifying energy. I'm a fan of wind turbines. I think they work when they work, but that's why I believe in diversifying the energies. When they don't work, we have other things that do work and that we can depend on. So the Keystone Pipeline, basically under Trump, we were getting to that point. We were energy independent for the first time in how long ever, or a really long time. We're energy independent. When America is energy independent, what that does is it obviously the price of oil and stuff like that plummets for us and across the world. Terrorist organizations, you know, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, things like that, terrorist organizations are solely funded by oil. They are solely funded by oil. So when America is oil independent, or energy independent, not only are we energy independent, not only does the price of energy go down for us Americans, we are doing a huge social justice by bankrupting terrorists. So that just, when you think about it in terms like that, the fact that Biden canceled the Keystone XL pipeline, the fact that we are now bombing Syria, and a lot of it has to do with the pipeline going on over there. It's a tough thing to wrap your head around. Sarah, play the governor of Florida at CPAC. What did he do? Wait, is there a clip of him? Hold on. Where can I find this? Let's see. Ron. One of my favorite things that I saw recently, someone was like, I think Don Jr. and Ron DeSantis should be on a ticket together for the 2024, and they would be Ron Don, and they should grow mullets, and they probably wouldn't even have to campaign at all. It would be Ron Don, Take Back America. I would be down for that. I don't know about you, but they would definitely have to grow mullets. That's the only way that's going to work. Ron Don, Take Back America. And they can make a movie out of it. Ron DeSantis, CPAC. Okay. There's no results. What? Hold on, let me look at YouTube. Ron DeSantis, CPAC. Okay, it's
Florida, Ron DeSantis, and the chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp.
G-Man, I don't know. No, I didn't. I would have to look into that. Sarah, don't know if you already covered it, but do you think the Saudi crown prince ordered the assassination of that one journalist? I forgot his name. I don't know. If anyone knows, help us out, because I'm not sure. These famous people are getting more stupid every day. Yeah, Sean, I agree. It's just it's very out of touch. And that just goes to show how out of touch this individual is. And I'm a huge fan of performance and music. I like pop, I like rock, I like hip hop, I like heavy metal, I like death metal, I like old music, I like everything. I appreciate a lot of music. And her first pop album, I think she's an incredible singer. Her first pop album is one of my favorite pop albums. She's great. If she's talking about music, I want to listen to her all day. Talk about that. Or performance. I would listen to that all day. Everything else, no. and this whole situation just really unintentionally by her just sort of proved, again, how out of touch she is. Diversifying energy is good, but mining for the metals and lubricating oils and large equipment fuel, erect turbines, and more cobalt mining for storage batteries for solar fossil fuel. I'm not sure. I don't know. I would like to look into that, because this whole energy, that's something that I've been learning about recently. I find it really fascinating, especially the connection with terrorists. So Lance T said, nothing significant will happen to the Crown Prince. Khashoggi, Boeing can't lose that. Okay, wait, what did Ron say? I wish I could find a shorter clip. It's 10 minutes long. Yes, I agree, Joseph. He says, I'm not a fan of Lady Gaga's music, but I have to admit she's an incredible performer. Absolutely. Michael, do you think if Trump doesn't run, that Ron DeSantis or Candace Owens would win the Republican presidential nomination? I don't know, Michael, but you have to think who has what it takes, because you kind of have to have, in order to pull this off, you have to be someone sort of similar to Trump, and sort of you have that fight back power, you have that presence. I think that you need that, and I think the Republican Party needs that right now, because they're the old Republican, like the Mitch McConnell, they're done. Like I think that era of Republicanism is done, and it's not going to win. They don't fight hard. You need someone that's a fighter, and I think Ron DeSantis is a fighter. Candace Owens is a fighter. I know people were floating around, even Don Jr. I was joking about that, but people are floating that around. Yeah, I think that would be, I could see Ron DeSantis and a Candace Owens ticket. That would be pretty genius, but he would also have to want to leave Florida, and I know the people of Florida don't want to give him up. Okay, thank you, Glenn Allen. I didn't want to play the whole 10-minute thing. Ron DeSantis mentioned Rush Limbaugh in his speech. He said Rush showed needed to show you to refuse to be canceled. Yeah, every time that somebody refuses to be canceled, they end up on top. That's the thing. You cannot apologize to these people. You can't. As soon as you apologize to the mob, you give the mob power. And once you stand up to them, you realize at the end of the day, it's not really that scary. I've heard Tom Cotton too. That would be really interesting. I feel like I've heard someone else. Was it the woman, is it South Dakota? Wilka, I'm going to leave soon. God bless you and every one of you guys. Thank you, Sean. Ron DeSantis. Okay, thank you, Lydia, for saying that. That's what I was trying to say, too. Okay, Lydia says, Ron DeSantis, conservatives devoid of a backbone is doomed to fail. That is the problem. And conservatives, what they will do is they'll say, Kristi Noem. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, so people were floating her name as well, Kristi Noem. Yeah, and I think that's the problem with the Republican Party. They'll say a lot of things. They'll say like, well, oh, that's hypocritical, and like, and oh, well, you know, if a Republican would have done that, you know how the media would have they just say the same things over and over again, but they don't really fight. They didn't do anything about the big tech, big media situation and all the censorship. I think that would have changed a lot of things if people weren't so afraid of getting censored and they weren't censoring anyone. But this stuff can't last. And no one in history that tried to silence anyone else is looked at as the good guy. You're just not. And I think about them and I'm like, how much would that stink to have to be you, to have to be the one that tries to cancel people and silence them? Like, think about, you know, Facebook or Twitter or what they're doing on there, or even sometimes YouTube, which is really unfortunate because I love YouTube. Actually, before I started making these political videos, I had a channel a long time ago where I did other videos. So I have a long history with YouTube. I love YouTube, but what's happening right now is really scary. And again, I would hate to be that person that has to try to silence other people. Oh, and back to Syria, I will say this. Ilhan Omar actually spoke out against the airstrikes in Syria. Interesting. Yeah, Cruiser said establishment Republicans are just Dems 2.0. And you know what's so funny? I was watching that Geraldo Rivera clip earlier today, and that's exactly, so he was like, I just can't believe these Republicans. He was talking out bad stuff about Ted Cruz. So he was calling out Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley. It's 5 p.m. Okay. But he was calling out all the ones that Republicans don't like. And I'm like, Geraldo Rivera, you're not a Republican. Get out of here. Seriously. He was saying these, the true leaders are Mitch McConnell and Liz Cheney and all these people. I was like, get out of here. You are not a Republican. That is old. We want new, because this isn't working. Nothing they're doing is working. It's not. Okay, Marcia says, if you're only getting information from leftist media, you really don't realize the censoring going on, or half the rest of us really what's happening. Yeah. And I can't remember. Oh, it was Bill Maher. If you guys, I'll probably do a video on this. Everything I'm talking about, I want to make videos, so I'll have more things that you can look at. But Bill Maher actually earlier today, and I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but sometimes he kind of hits it on the head. He hit it on the head pretty well talking about censorship. And he goes, all of you who don't think censorship is real, it will come for you. It doesn't matter whether you are a Republican or a Democrat. It will come for you. Anytime you go against what the mob wants you, it doesn't matter who you are, it will come to you. It will come to your town. It will come to your school. It will come to your place of work, and it will. And that goes right back into, well, why do you stay in California? Why do you stay and fight? I can stay and fight, or I can move somewhere else and wait for it to come, because it will eventually come. And I completely understand what you guys are saying, being frustrated with having Californians move to your state, not understanding why they're moving and voting the same way and bringing all this stuff that you wanted to get away with. That's going to continue to happen unless people stay where they are and fight. And you know what? That's some of my, as far as like mass immigration, that's some of my issues with mass immigration, because you do need people that stay in these areas and fight. Otherwise, you have everyone moving to one area, and then this other area is still really bad and crappy. So, and I think it was the Dalai Lama who said, and the Dalai Lama actually got crap. They tried to cancel the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama got a little bit of crap for this. He was speaking about the immigration crisis in Europe, and he said the correct way to bring in refugees in mass amounts like this is to bring them in, educate them, get them okay, give them education, give them tools, and then allow them to go back so they can go back and rebuild their areas, because you do need people that stay and that fight and that rebuild. Otherwise, those ideas stay there, and then eventually they're going to start spreading. And that's what I worry about California and all this other stuff. Market Education says, you can poison people's minds. Instead, you think you're woke and getting things out that don't help others. Yeah. And I always say too, I'm like, I've talked to you guys about this before, but I'm like, I never left the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me a long time ago. And that's how it is. The Democratic Party pushed me out. They forced me to leave because they are insane. Ralph said, how about defund the teachers union? Oh my gosh. Our teachers unions. Everyone's true colors are showing, aren't they? So our LA teachers union, there's a huge thing going on with them because they do not want to open. Yet there is no evidence showing that opening schools is dangerous. We just had a bit of a win because they allowed children's sports to resume, thankfully. But our kids here in California, our kids were going out and protesting and just saying, and they were saying, let us play, just let us play. Like, our kids are suffering, and it's really sad. And these teachers are like, they don't want to go back to school. And what was the one teachers meeting that went public saying, oh, the parents just want their babysitters out, or their parents just want their babysitters back. Meanwhile, you have women that are being pushed out of the workforce because they don't have childcare, and you have kids that are suffering, not getting any social interaction or a decent education. It's really sad. And when you're a kid, when you're in school, you don't get those years back. When we're an adult, it's fine, like every year kind of. But when you're a kid, like, you don't get any of that back. You don't get kindergarten back. You don't get first grade back. You don't get second grade back. You don't get your senior year in high school back. You don't get your freshman year in high school back. You get none of that back. And it's not their fault. Michael says the Chicago Teachers Union is essentially a criminal organization at this point. Yeah, that's how I feel. I was at the point, I was speaking to someone online, and I was like, if someone were to, if I could go somewhere and get educated really quickly or get certified somehow to be a teacher, I would go be a teacher for the rest of the year while these dummies want to sit on their butts at home. It's just angering. Stop the philosophy. I can't talk today. I hated school. I wouldn't miss those years at all. I hated school too, but I might have hated my parents more. I didn't hate my parents, but you know, when you're a teenager, you don't want to be stuck in the house with your parents. I might have gone to the point where I was like, please let me go back, please. Lance T, I agree with anyone who's pro-freedom is good. The governors of Florida and South Dakota are great. I agree. And the poor people of Florida and South Carolina, they're like, oh, we don't, they're like, don't take our governors away. And I totally understand that. Or just democracy ruins cities. Yeah. It is a little bit of laziness. There was another teacher who just got in trouble. It was another teacher who didn't realize the teachers' meeting was live and recently got in trouble. So I hope she gets fired. But isn't that the problem with the teachers' union? They can't really get fired. Am I right or am I wrong? Michael, DeSantis has one of Trump's greatest characteristics. He doesn't care what Dems think about him. Exactly, Michael. And I think if you're going to win, if you're going to run for 2024 and have a chance to win, I think it needs to be someone like that. You have to have a backbone. Sarah, did you see the Megyn Kelly's interview with Bill Maher last night? No, I haven't seen it, Glenn Allen, but I'll watch it today. Was it good? I really like Megyn Kelly a lot. All right, I'll probably go in about 5 minutes. Let me know if you have any. DeSantis, no, on 2024. Maybe. It'll be interesting. I can't wait to hear what Trump has to say tomorrow because we haven't seen him in so long. Yes, okay, G-Man, Sarah, you heard about the entire school that resigned, right? Yes, good. Good, and this is what drives me crazy. This is the same with teachers' unions, the same with, you know, politicians. Move aside. If you don't want to do your job, that's fine. Go work somewhere else. Go get a job, maybe be a receptionist where you can just sit at a desk all day. I did that once. It was lovely. I didn't have to do anything. I made money and my job was so easy. Go do that. But move aside. Let someone else that actually cares and let someone else that actually wants to do a good job have that position. Go somewhere else and do something else. You want to be lazy? That's fine. Go be lazy. But go do it where it doesn't affect other people, especially kids. Oh, that makes me so mad. Have you thought of leaving LA? I hate to see what it has become. Yes. Goose, Winnipeg. I think about leaving LA all the time. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm always looking. I'm always looking and planning and scheming. Hey, Sonic, I recognize you from Sonic Thrillington. I recognize you from your comments. Hello, nice to see you. Journalists are just bullies. Oh, ooh. Hold on. I should get better technology where I can actually play this stuff a little bit better. You're going to love. So, Jim Acosta got accosted at CPAC. So Jim Acosta was walking through CPAC and he pretty much got called out. They were trying to get him to condemn Antifa and the BLM violence, and he just completely refused to condemn them. And he basically, it didn't make him look good. He completely refused to say anything to condemn them, and he was more concerned with finding the golden Trump statue at CPAC than actually answering questions. It was pretty funny. They also cornered him about Cuomo. They cornered Jim Acosta about Cuomo and said, what do you have to say about Cuomo? Why is CNN not talking about Andrew Cuomo? And he couldn't answer. It was pretty funny. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that. He basically got Jim Acosta because that's what he does to everyone else. So Jim Acosta got Jim Acosta, and it was great. All right, guys. I think that's about it for today. Thank you so much for watching and participating. Did you see the anti-Semitism nurses episode that NBC pulled? I did not see that, Michael. I'll have to look that up. Jim accosted. Absolutely. He got Jim accosted. I did not see that. All right, you guys, thank you so much again. Are you running in the recall? No. Maybe one day. Not this recall. Too soon. All right. Thank you so much, you guys. Bye. That was really fun. Have a really good night. And I'll think of some really good stuff for next time. I really appreciate it. Okay. Bye, guys. Have a really good night. Don't get crazy. It's Saturday. I won't be going anywhere because everything's closed. So I'm just kidding. All right. Bye, you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.